Sir, please share with us your experience in collaborating with the ILO on detection of forced labor on fishing vessels.
Okay. In early 2022, SAMSA participated in a forced labor, what is called a 8.7 accelerator lab from ILO on forced labor. So SAMSA was participating, Department of Education and Labor was there, and some other departments in the meeting, a virtual meeting. And in there were questions around South Africa's implementation of C188. And I brought it to the attention that we have identified a gap when it comes to our inspectors, our surveyors, that because of their background and because of the progressive constitution of South Africa and the way our labor is set up, they do not have a lot of experience in picking up forced labor issues, as other countries would have. And it is there at that meeting we discussed ILO's possible assistance in providing training on forced labor indicators to SAMSA surveyors. And that is the training that took place in July, where it was attended by about 10, I think there were 12 SAMSA inspectors, including fishing surveyors and a whole host of other departments.
What was the importance of the ILO SAMSA workshop held in July 2022 in Cape Town?
Well, at the outset, for me, the importance was the SAMSA surveyors that would be involved in port state control inspections on foreign flag fishing vessels, that they are trained on forced labor and forced labor indicators and how to pick it up and what to do about it. What then happened with the arrangement of the meeting? The meeting brought together the SAMSA surveyors, 10, 12 of them, like I said, and ILO members, Alex Nazari from Geneva, Aresh Mehta from the Cape Town ILO office, Philippe Kakord is a legal fisheries expert from the ILO. Christine Bader joined us from on Zoom from Geneva. We also had Jason Judd from Cornell University that does a lot of work on documentation and doing the research on forced labor indicators and C188 implementation. So they all attended and they all provided training. And the important thing was that, for me, that the SAMSA surveyors were trained on the forced labor indicators as I requested. But in addition to that, there was Department of Education and Labor officials, there was Department of Fisheries officials, there was Immigration, there was SARS, There were some legal people as well. So everybody in all departments who have some interest in the well-being of international officials attended the meeting. And what became important in there that there was presentations from various of these departments, like from Department of Employment and Labour. They presented on their mandate. The new mandate when the Basic Conditions of Employment Act was amended in 2019, which gives them a mandate to inspect contracts of fishermen, leave of fishermen, and various other things in the amended Basic Conditions of Employment, which obviously overlaps with the current work that SAMSA is doing in terms of fishing vessel inspections. So there was a discussion of having a meet and then collaborating and maybe doing some training with the Department of Education and Labour inspectors of how to go about doing fishing inspections. We also had discussions with the Department of Fisheries, where there was a possible MOU discussed, where we would be training some of the staff who are at sea to be able to do inspections on our behalf. But that discussions must still take place. So that was basically for me the importance of the whole issue.
The ILO Convention on fishing, is it called, what's it called? Fishing?
The Working Fishing Convention.
Yes. Has been around now since about 2017, 2018, at least in South Africa. We were the first to get this underway. The next question I have is, what is the way forward on addressing the issue of forced labor on fishing vessels?
The way forward is that we now have 10, 12 SAMSA surveyors who has attended the training, will be given a package of how to go about doing the work, how to identify the indicators. SAMSA largely operates on a checklist. So when we do surveys, we issue them a checklist. So for the same principle we have followed when doing port-sale control inspections for C-188 on foreign flag vessels. We have a C-188 inspection checklist, and at the end of that session, there's a section that talks about interviewing the crew. So there were certain questions and certain lines of questioning that was advised in the training. So we will be amending the checklist in line with those recommended questioning lines. And we'll take the surveyors through that. So when they do next port-sale control, they look at interviewing the crew with those additional questions to start to pick up forced labor indicators. But also, in the training, there were various other things that was mentioned, like withholding of payments and those type of things that all looks at points towards forced labor. Long hours, no rest periods, those type of things. So they have all been trained, and the way forward is now to apply it.
Finally, the importance of the relationship with the ILO. Why is that partnership important?
For me, the partnership is very important because if you look at our constitution, there's a section that very clearly states that every person has the right to decent work, which is in line with the ILO's decent work for all. Doesn't matter if you're a fisherman or anybody else, but anybody that works for somebody else, the ILO looks after decent work conditions for those people. In terms of the Working Fishing Convention, we only talk about fishermen. So what is important for South Africa that in line with our constitution, we have ratified this convention. We've seen the merits of the convention, and we've seen why we needed to implement it, and we ratified it in 2013, and we amended our Merchant Shipping Act in 2015 to give effect to the convention. We also drafted some regulations, and we are waiting for those regulations to promulgate it to give full effect to the convention. Um, so it's important for us that once we have implemented our flag state system, which we are almost there, besides the 2-3 pieces of legislation that's waiting, like the Cape Town Agreement, seafarer insurance regulation, small vessels medical regulations. Once that is promulgated, we will give full effect to the C-188. Now, the ILO has recognized South Africa's role in implementing and sharing experiences with the rest of the world who have maybe just about ratified it and is trying to implement it, or even countries that is looking at implementing, but they want to be convinced that there is a working way forward for implementation of a flag state and a port state regime. So we have collaborated with the ILO on various projects. We visited Bali, Southeast Asia, where they had a conference there on their issues around the countries like Thailand, Indonesia, wanting to ratify, needing to be convinced. And we did speak to them about the South African experience. And as you know, in 2019, those countries did come visit South Africa, where we showed them what we do. We took them to our vessels. We took them through our whole conference. And Thailand went back and they ratified the convention. Indonesia doing a lot of work around implementing and changing legislation, but it's still a long haul for them. But very soon they'll be ratifying. So we collaborate with the ILO. They recognize our standing when it comes to C-188. Recently, in 2016, we accompanied the ILO to Namibia, where we did a gap analysis of their legislation and what they need to do to ratify and implement C-188. They have now since ratified C-188, and in early July, we visited the Namibia again with the ILO, and we met with the Department of Labour there, because their intention is that their labour inspectors do the inspections. So there was some training from the South African side and from the ILO side for those inspectors. And we did a visit to a vessel where we showed them how we do an inspection. So, and that collaboration doesn't end there. They will forever be using the South African experience in terms of when they engage other states that either has ratified it or need some examples, or that is looking at ratifying. So that's where South Africa stands on this convention.
So, Mr. Belling, thank you very much for your time. That is very insightful. Thank you, sir.